In the current conflict, Israel faces a mounting financial burden as the war intensifies, with billions of dollars allocated to military operations, infrastructure repair, and humanitarian efforts. The financial strain has reached levels that have become increasingly difficult to sustain, leaving Israel contemplating the limits of its resources and the viability of expanding its military operations. Reports from credible financial and military sources reveal that Israel's defense spending has escalated sharply, with an estimated $10 billion allocated since the beginning of this conflict, and projections indicating that this number could rise significantly if the war continues. Adding to Israel's challenges are heavy losses in personnel, which carry both a human and economic cost. According to data from the Israeli Defense Forces, over 2,000 Israeli soldiers have been killed since the escalation began, a figure corroborated by international news agencies like Reuters. The loss of trained soldiers means not only the tragic loss of life, but also the financial and logistical cost of recruiting and training new personnel, a costly process estimated to take years. In light of these figures, Israeli leadership and citizens alike are increasingly questioning how much longer these losses can be sustained. The impact on Israel's economy extends beyond direct military expenditures, as the war has disrupted normal life across the country. Daily life has ground to a halt, with citizens spending extensive hours in bunkers to avoid missile attacks. Business sectors have slowed significantly, affecting everything from retail to the tech industry, which has historically been a cornerstone of Israel's economy. Forbes reports that the prolonged disruptions in work and commerce could decrease Israel's GDP growth by up to 1.5% annually if the conflict extends, a figure which would have lasting consequences for the nation's economic stability. Much of Israel's military hardware, including Iron Dome missiles and tanks, are supplied and funded by the United States. However, the situation is further complicated by political shifts in the United States. Former President Donald Trump, who remains influential, has publicly voiced opposition to continued American taxpayer funding for the war, arguing that the United States should prioritize its own interests over foreign entanglements. In an interview with Fox News, Trump stated, "American taxpayers should not be footing the bill for a war that does not directly serve our interests." This sentiment, echoed by a significant portion of the American public, adds pressure on Israel to seek alternative funding or re-evaluate its military objectives. The cost of arms and ammunition has skyrocketed, with Israel reportedly spending an additional $3 billion on advanced weaponry alone in recent months. The procurement of more sophisticated systems to counteract threats has further strained Israel's budget. American aid remains crucial for Israel, yet there are indications that the U.S. may reduce the support if domestic opposition to the war continues to grow. The Wall Street Journal reports that American aid to Israel in 2024 could face cuts if public and congressional support wanes, creating further urgency for Israel to address its financial predicament. Israel's dependency on American assistance extends beyond military support. Much of its civilian infrastructure, including emergency food supplies, is also imported from the United States. With civilian casualties rising, there is a heightened need for medical supplies and temporary housing, which have placed an unexpected additional burden on Israel's government. According to the Times of Israel, the Israeli government has had to divert funds from other areas, such as education and healthcare, to address these wartime needs, a decision that is causing growing discontent among the populace. For Israeli citizens, life in bunkers has become a harsh daily reality. While Israel's air defense systems protect from some attacks, they cannot shield the population from the psychological and economic impacts of living in constant fear. Businesses in major cities have shuttered, schools are closed, and public transportation has been largely suspended. This state of emergency has effectively stalled economic productivity, and as reported by Bloomberg, Israel could face a recession if the war continues into next year. The disruption to daily life has reached a point where some citizens are beginning to question the cost of continued conflict. Meanwhile, casualty counts and the immense financial toll are wearing on Israel's resolve. Despite the nation's long-standing military strategy, the exhaustion felt by the Israeli government and its citizens is apparent. Israeli officials have hinted that without immediate financial relief or a significant shift in military success, they may need to consider de-escalation or diplomatic solutions. The Jerusalem Post recently cited a senior government official stating that Israel cannot endure this financial bleeding indefinitely.